Most times I like to try to be really methodical and plan out my shots, and scout it beforehand, then try to figure out when the best time to be there. And all that goes out the window once in a while, and you end up shooting a little more reactive. This is definitely a good example of a more reactive kind of shot. This is a part of the wash that I've been through several times and kind of took a look at these trees, but the conditions is what makes it just kind of a fleeting moment for me. But I've got the camera set up just all the way into this maple tree, just a face full of color. It's just orange and red and yellow leaves everywhere. And I am in direct sunlight right now, but the reason why this shot is even possible is because this one branch I'm working on is underneath some other branches over here that's kind of shielding it and giving it shade. But it's filtering all this light through, and it's all warm, beautiful light. But add to that, I've got some high clouds that I've built in too, and it's kind of acting like a little bit of a softbox. So it's softening the harsh light. So I've gone for a vertical crop, just trying to get the camera in there in between these two branches. And I don't know if it's that I like to challenge myself so much, or if this is borderline torture. Probably the second, because there's depth of field issues everywhere here. There's going to be things coming in and out of focus all over, and that's fine. That's okay. I'm going to have to let that go. So I just focused on the branches themselves. And there's going to be leaves that are sharp. Some they're going to be closer to the camera. They're going to be out of focus, and the whole 9 yards. But I'm thinking it's still going to make for a really interesting shot. I like the way the silver of the branches kind of spider out throughout the composition. That's kind of what made me decide to go ahead and shoot this, on top of the fact that if I don't shoot it now, I'm not going to get a chance to. These lighting conditions aren't going to last, and the shot's going to be gone. Now, just for added safety, since I am in direct sunlight, I've gone ahead and draped my dark cloth over the top of my bellows and the film holder. Not necessarily because I'm concerned about having any light leaks in the camera. I don't think I do. But while I'm sitting with the dark slide up, especially with it in vertical comp mode, that light seal on the top of the film holder is facing the sun. I don't want to end up risking, getting a light leak right there where the dark slide goes in. So I've gone ahead and draped dark cloth over it just to rule that out. Now this is framed up with my Fujinon 180mm f5.6 lens, and I'm shooting this at f22 1/3. That's giving me a shutter time of 1/4 second for Provia 100F. I took one exposure like that, and then I changed out for a sheet of Velvia 50. Added an additional stop since it's a slower film. That put me a half a second. I do have a little bit of bellows extension, but it's right on the hair edge of being an extra third stop. And with my shutter times as fast as they are, I just didn't even compensate for it. I just metered directly off of a gray card, which ended up actually being this exact same tone as the branches. So there's some exposure latitude there, and if it's just slightly underexposed, I think it'll be just fine. Especially with the direct sunlight, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Pretty healthy amount of movements between swing and front tilt to try to keep my plane of focus moving along the branches, and trying to get whatever leaves I can, or in the frame in focus as best as I could. And it's just chaos. So I can't realistically get my expectations up too high. Yeah, cool shot, I think. I hope it turned out. It was a nice unexpected composition that I was just walking by on the way back to the truck, didn't expect to shoot it, but glad to have one more in the bag. Let's take a look at the film exposure, and as always, let me know what you think down in the comments.
Of the two exposures, the Provia image was definitely a better moment in time. I don't remember seeing all of this harsh light in the composition when I took the Velvia image, as I thought I was waiting it out to make sure that wasn't there. Apparently there was more than I thought. It didn't actually blow those areas out. It managed to carry enough detail. It's just not a very good look, and the Provia image is a clear winner. I really like the flow of this branch and the way it spiders out in and around all this color. And there's a diagonal emphasis on the branch, which was intentional. I used a combination of front tilt and front swing to make sure the plane of focus travels from the top left to the bottom left of the image. I was pleasantly surprised to see just how many of these leaves were actually acceptably sharp. But I think the exposure was spot on, and for a full frame color shot, I was pretty happy with the way this turned out. But here's my edit. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Swish. So this shot is a maple that I scouted out earlier, and I figured that afternoon time is probably about the best time to come. So I'm back, and I've set up on it, and all the conditions aren't exactly what I was hoping for. I got more cloud than I was hoping. I was kind of banking on having a little more reflected light, because there is this big sandstone wall I'm actually shooting up against, but the top of it is lit up. And when it's crystal clear blue with no overcast, this whole area glows pretty well in the afternoon. And it just so happens that there's a nice stretch of beautiful, beautiful, colorful trees along this part of the wash as well. This one that I'm set up on is kind of singled out on its own, or I have singled it out with my composition. But it's up against this sandstone wall as a backdrop, which makes it kind of nice to be able to keep the background some sort of uniform feature so that it isn't quite distracting. But there is interest in it. But of course, this composition is all about just this tree and the beautiful leaves. Through some creative camera placement, I was able to isolate it from the one next to it. There is one branch that's kind of sticking out. I don't know if you can see it. It's like this dead branch that's sticking out I had to try to avoid. But I noticed the tree is actually leaning kind of this way into the wash. So I just kind of rotated the camera to match that. So it's not level to earth, but it makes the tree look just a little bit more straight. And that was just enough to keep that dead branch kind of on the edge of the frame. It's possible, depending on where the film holder is, slopping around inside the camera, there may be just a sliver on the edge of the film, and that's okay, because you usually end up cropping the borders off anyway. I put the trunks just on the very bottom corner. There is a small little tuft of leaves that's just right on the corner here that I want to make sure I included, because it look a little awkward if I try to cut it off. And again, of course, the challenge is here, or depth of field. That tends to be the case frequently for me, I guess. Just the kind of photographs I like to take, I suppose. The sandstone wall leans away from the tree, and the tree is leaning into the wash. So there's a wedge in between. And I had to choose, do I want the background in focus and the tree out, or do I want the tree in focus and the background soft? And of course, the main subject of this photograph is the tree. So of course I was going to choose the tree. So in order to achieve matching my plane of focus to the tree, I used my asymmetrical rear tilt on the Chamonix 45 f2 here. Just makes it a little less of a challenge because you can just focus on the bottom. There's a nice line that you put whatever you want in focus there, and then you unlock your asymmetrical rear tilt, and you tilt until the top comes in focus. And that rotates around that line that's on the ground glass, and that stays in focus while you rotate to get the top in focus. It's a little easier way to do it instead of just having axial front tilt or rear tilt. Having asymmetrical makes it a little easier sometimes. And of course, that's going to push my background to be just that much more soft than it otherwise would have been. That's okay, because I'm using that to my advantage here. Because the leaves on the top of this tree have mostly turned reddish and reddish-orange tones. And the problem is the sandstone in the background, especially towards the top, starts to take on a yellow tone. So the separation between the leaves and the background starts to get kind of lost. I don't want your eye to get confused in trying to decide what it is that it's supposed to be looking at here. So with having the leaf sharp, the background fall just ever so slightly soft, that separates it just a little bit. Then on top of that, I'm shooting Provia 100F. And I don't have 100% blue skies, but I am expecting I'm going to get a slight bit of blue cast shooting in the shade here. And the rock itself does have some spots where it looks like it's reflecting sky color. So having that warm to cool contrast thing again is the other thing that I'm trying to use to my advantage to try to separate those leaves. Annoyingly, there is a bright green tree behind it. It's an oak sapling. It's behind the times a little bit. It needs to get to changing. But I have to deal with it. It's just a little bit of a green splash back there, but hopefully it's not too distracting. But here's this shot. And as always, let me know what you think down in the comments.
The darker sandstone on the bottom of this scene did turn a little more blue and contrasts nicely with the color of the leaves, helping them stand out more. But in the upper half of the image, not so much, since the color of the sandstone shifts a little bit closer to the color of the leaves. I'm also not so sure about all the clutter that's in the top right corner of the image. And although the tree does hide some of it, I could still do with a little bit less of that. I do like all the lines in the sandstone, and the way they change angle as they fan out towards the left corner, but still point in towards the tree. As it turns out, I'm not actually overly concerned about this splash of green in the background, since I think it's balanced a little bit by the bottom branch and the small offshoot in the bottom right corner, which are in transition and also have some greens. Maybe not my favorite composition from the trip, but I think it fits squarely in the okay category, and I'm curious to hear what you think. So here's my edit, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.
So as the evening is unfolded, we've got some high clouds that have come in. Starting to sock in pretty good, actually. Just off to where the sun's setting, it's almost completely overcast. I got this composition that I'm up on now that I've been sitting on for a day or two, kind of waiting, trying to evaluate when the best time to shoot it might be. Originally, I was going to go for a morning shot, but then as I was walking past to shoot something else, I saw all this kind of filtered light coming through the clouds. And I thought maybe I'd put it on the ground glass and see what it looks like. Originally, I was going to shoot color negative on this because there was a spot on the very top that was sunlit. It was a little harsh before the clouds, but with the filtered light, it kind of knocked it down just a little bit, softened it up a little bit so that it was actually shootable. But as I've been sitting here tinkering around with the camera, getting it set up, that I've lost that. It's gone flat, probably because the sun's starting to set behind the ridgeline behind me, so I've lost that light. But what that's done is it's left just a little bit of warm highlights up here. Not a lot, not anywhere near what it was. But now the dynamic range is low enough that I can shoot color reversal film. So now I've switched to Provia. It's just the corner of the wash that's got these really cool swirly patterns going up the sandstone. Looks really interesting. And it's got some black varnish streaks to it because this turns into a waterfall when you get enough rain. It'd be really awesome to see it when it's flowing, but it'd probably need even water if that were the case. There's kind of one side that looks like it flows more than the other. So that's left some dark streaks on one side, and it's kind of playing back and forth between highlights and darks up there. And then add to that the fact that there is still a little bit of filtered light coming through there. It's kind of created this interesting, arrangement of highlights and shadows. There's a couple plants dotting the wall, just a couple little miniature hanging gardens, I suppose. But it's really all kind of about this foreground that's got these really cool swoops coming up. I really like that. It looked a little ungrounded if I tried to point up too far and disinclude the entire foreground. So I got just a sliver on the bottom of the wash with a few rocks to kind of give it some anchoring on the bottom. Kind of give you an idea what you're looking at, some sense of scale. Challenges on this one, again, is depth of field, because this is a pocket that goes pretty high up in the air. And there's sandstone that's close to my camera, but then there's depth to it. And then it also goes straight up in the air. So just really careful camera placement. Got it mostly acceptably sharp, I think. I believe. We'll see when the film comes back. But I was more predominantly worried about the foreground, like I said, because that was the interesting part to me. So I focused there and then tried to get as much as I could with depth of field just by stopping down. As I said, I shot one sheet of Provia 100F. That exposure was 1 second. F22 and 2/3. So F27 or 28, whatever funny number that is, 29. Here's that exposure. And as always, let me know what you think down in the comments.
This single exposure actually turned out a lot better than I thought it might. With the lighting conditions I had at the time, I hadn't gotten my hopes up too high, but I think it turned out great. Of course, I might have preferred to have just a little bit more of a glow on the very top of the image, but unfortunately I never saw those conditions, so I never ended up revisiting this. I was happy with the amount of foreground I captured, as it helps anchor the scene, and I was really pleased with the flow of the sandstone, the way it swings back and forth in the image. I had been concerned about this little evergreen sapling sticking out of the side of the sandstone, but turns out it was dark enough in the image that I don't think it's a distraction at all. Sharpness turned out perfectly acceptable throughout, which I was happy to see considering the number of challenges there were in getting the plane of focus to travel appropriately throughout the image. Overall, I think it was a pretty interesting subject, and I'm pretty happy with the result. But here's my edits, and as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Special thanks to my Patreon patrons. Your support is appreciated and helps produce more videos just like this one. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you can let me know by hitting that thumbs up button down below. And if you want to make sure you catch the rest of the videos from my Zion series, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.